In this video, we're gonna talk about chickens, and we got actually a real chicken.
Hey!
And you know what my chicken likes?
To flap you.
She likes worms. Here, eat some worms.
Look.
We're gonna talk about how to keep your backyard flock healthy. We're gonna talk about husbandry, common diseases and treatment, and what else would you talk about? She's scared. She loves like little worms.
Just the popularity of backyard chickens has grown like
What's this one's
significantly.
name?
I think that's one.
Hi.
Her name is Claire.
Claire. This is Claire.
Claire.
Claire's the loud one.
Oh. Look, there's wormies.
So in our experience, one of the healthiest things you could eat and give to your family is eggs from your backyard chicken. And these chickens produce lots of eggs. Like our fridge is filled with eggs, and they're here.
Look at all the colors of the eggs.
Yeah, some of the chickens they produce green eggs, and some produce white eggs. And look, she likes the
She is really enjoying that right now.
Hello.
Go in. The chicken.
She realized now that it's not so bad, right? I also just acquired 3 chickens, and they are definitely really fun, and it's a learning process for sure. They're not making eggs yet, but they're only like 18 weeks, maybe another couple weeks, and they'll start making eggs. Wow,
we'll
dang,
discuss
girl.
when you buy some chickens, the things that you should do. We're going to talk about molting. They molt, common diseases, and ways that you could protect them, because there's some predators that they really like chicken too.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Barking Bag Podcast. I'm Dr. Emily Johns. This is Dr. Carlos Aguirre. And today we got a really fun topic. We're going to talk about backyard chickens.
Chickens are fun.
They are so fun.
Funny story. We went to Tractor Supply, and like always, my daughter wanted chickens. So we got them at about 3 days old.
That young?
Dang.
Dang.
They're 3 days old, and I thought it was a bad idea. But anyways, we brought these chickens home, and they sort of gave us some advice on how to manage them. They gave us it's like a brooding box, and then it had a red light, and then there were 4 of them, so we would just feed them in there. They gave us the diet.
Yep.
It's called the starter diet.
Yeah.
So tell us, Dr. Emily knows much more about nutrition of chickens. She read a whole book about it. I just know that we got chickens, and they gave them some food, and it had a red light. That's pretty much all I know.
So I got my 3 chickens like a month ago, and I got them there about 14 weeks. So they were more of in the developer stage, but I wanted to make sure that I knew what I was doing and that I didn't kill any chickens that I bought and brought home. So it just depends. Their nutrition is kind of variable depending on their stage, and their amount of calcium, their amount of crude protein, and their amount of phosphorus can vary based on their developmental stage. So basically, your adult layers should be eating like 16% protein diet with like 3 to 4.5% calcium. And young birds that are not laying should not have access to the laying feed, because the calcium is actually, too much of that calcium is bad for the little chicks, because it can hurt their kidneys. So also shout out to McKillop Poultry Medicine. I found her information on VIN, which is the Veterinary Information Network, and she has this whole spiel and like a book about it. She's a poultry nutritionist, so lots of good information. Really appreciate that insight that I was able to download and read myself, which is how I learned all this stuff. And you also want to make sure that the feed that you're feeding is formulated by a poultry nutritionist. Yes, they do have those. University of Georgia had an entire unit about poultry research and whatnot. Those brands, typically you can find Purina, Do More, Nature's Best, Nutrina, Mana Pro, and Southern States. So just make sure it's one of those good brands. And I recommend the pellets because rather than the ones that are separated, because then they eat everything in the pellet versus if it's separated, they'll pick out what they want. So you want to make sure they get equivalent nutrition. So my friend Brooke, who has 12 chickens, recommended that to me as well. And you want to offer grit to all bird life stages. We'll talk about grit later. And layers, you want to make sure they have some oyster shell for the calcium support for their shells. And then basically we'll talk about water later too, but you want to offer feed, grit, fresh, clean water, and oyster shell if that's appropriate for their stage pretty much all the time. But we'll talk about housing too. So as we were saying, the crude protein is different, and it actually goes from the most protein when they're babies to the lesser amount of protein once they're adults, from about 20 to 22% down to 15 to 18%.
Because cover their life stages. First, they're babies, and then they're layers.
Yeah, so they're pullets, and they go from like starter pullets to grower pullets to developer pullets. And then they're going to be layers. And then you have your breeder ones as well. And then you have your broilers, which are your meat birds that are basically only living till about 6 to 8 weeks, and then they're slaughtered. So all of those stages require different amounts of kilocalories per pound of weight and crude protein, calcium, all that jazz. So there's really a lot of science to it. It's pretty cool.
This is something you might not know. You don't want a rooster. The roosters are obnoxious, right? So if you just get hens, they're going to lay eggs, but they're not going to have chicks because they're not going to be fertilized, right? Yeah. So it's just going to lay eggs for you. Because if you live in an HOA, the last thing you want is a rooster.
Yeah, and you got enough HOA problems. We don't need another rooster.
I got problems.
Don't get them started.
I got problems.
Well, that was good about nutrition. So now we're going to talk a little bit about treats, which is a little different than the nutrition, because the treats are like the beer and ice cream and cookies in our world. So I'll let Carlos take over about treats, because he just fed his chicken a bunch of mealworms, which I would consider a treat.
So the treats, these chickens, they love mealworms. So whenever we want them to go back into their house or just do about anything, we just put the mealworms and they do that. And now that it's hot, it's now August here in St. John's, Florida. Another thing that you could do is freeze watermelon or berries. And other good treats are squash, leafy greens, cooked grains. And they love all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
These chickens eat about just about anything you give them.
Yep. So there are some treats that are off limits, though. You know, he was mentioning some good ones. Things to avoid would be garlic, onions, rhubarb, which I believe is like the avocado, either the pit or the skin or something. Potato peels, black soldier fly larvae, scratch, seeds, processed foods like pastas, breads, and then moldy, rotten food that you leave out. Anything high in sugar, salt, like pastries, cakes, all that you really want to avoid. Because really, even realistically, anything that's not food, their pellets, their grit, and their oyster shell is considered a treat. So if you plan to supplement their diet with treats, you need to make sure that it's less than 5% of their daily diet. That 95% needs to be their high quality nutrition, because they'll often fill up on the treats and not eat their proper nutrition. And that's sometimes where you can run into some problems.
So the chicken, these layers could get fat?
They can. I do think that your chickens might be a little bit
You think my chicken's
but they're
fat?
really cute. No, they're so cute though. He's going to have the video, obviously, of him holding the chicken. So.
Another thing you want to avoid, it says chocolate and caffeine.
Yeah.
It has
no coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no coffee. There is some stuff that can be really bad, but like he said, the fresh vegetables and stuff, there are some really good ones. Just don't let it get moldy. Like if you're going to put it out there, give them a certain amount of time to eat it and then pick it up and take it away. So that's
one thing that I was amazed, because there was a time that my family left. They came back, but I was amazed how much those chickens ate, because they have like this feeding box that you fill up with the food, and I thought, oh, these chickens are good for like a week, and I came like 3 days later and it was empty. These chickens eat, and then what we did is we'll show you some pictures of the house, but it's pretty much like a fenced house with a roof. And then what we did was we put bricks around it, because what happens is predators will dig under the house, and
Yeah.
if a possum, not a possum, I think it's
Raccoons.
a raccoon
Yeah, raccoons
or a
will tear
fox,
them
if
limb
they
by
get in
limb.
there, they'll kill all your
They'll
chickens.
kill all the chickens.
So you gotta really
Watch
be
out for
aware
that.
how could these predators get in there.
Yep. So yeah, that's a whole different topic about the housing and whatnot. So, but summary for treats: make sure it's at least 95% good quality food, and you should be good after that as long as you're in a good pelleted type of feed. So, but also birds foraging for bugs that are outside does not count as a treat because they're able to expend energy to forage for that food. So, side note. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about feed management. So there are certain ways you want to store some of your food. Ideally, the bag should be kept stored in a clean, dry area that's rodent proof. They recommend not even placing some of your feed bags on concrete because it will actually absorb moisture from the concrete, and that can mold your feed. Really, it should stay as fresh as possible in the summer, especially in Florida. Don't keep it longer than a month. And then in the winter, it can last more like 2 months. And it's just going to help keep the vitamins and minerals from degrading and from the fats becoming rancid. And there are really a lot of types of feeders. Gosh, when I was at Tractor Supply and Amazon looking for the types of feeders, I was so overwhelmed. There's lots of feeder options. I ended up getting one that was like, it was from like Easy over Easy Egg. And it was a cute little plastic thing with 2 holes for them to eat so everything stays dry. And I just take the sealed lid and fill the food up. And then the waters, we just took an old Home Depot bucket and I bought the cups and my boyfriend drilled them in there. And then it just automatically fills the water when they peck it. The little thing fills the water and I rinse it out every few days to keep the mold from going. But there's, yeah.
You could actually buy.
You can buy the cups.
I bought the whole thing. Yeah, we bought the whole thing.
You can buy it pre-made too. I was just cheap, and it was like $10 for like 12 cups, and I already had a bucket. So
I think good advice is where you buy the chicks, they tend to have people that know what type of diet. So the diets are starter, grower, and layer. Yeah. So ask them.
Yep. I went to Charlie's Chicks, which is out in Baldwin around Jacksonville, the west side. It was really cool, and the lady had a lot of good advice. Their website has a lot of good stuff. They do a lot of good breeding. They vaccinate theirs. They have medicated feed for deworming and whatnot. So I got hopefully really healthy chickens, and I hopefully keep them that way. But that was what was recommended to me in our area, Charlie's Chicks. So in your area, if you're looking to get chicks, you can do like Carlos did, which was babies from Tractor Supply. Or you can do what I did, which was go get about 14-week-old. They weren't laying yet. They will, but 14-week-old that are already kind of going through that grower stage and are already eating and whatnot. You don't have to worry about the heat lamp and all of that. But that's a really cool stage of life to be able to be a part of because they can become really friendly that way. Yeah, really. And another thing is they really have to have food available and water available at all times. So they recommend 24-hour access. I know for mine, they don't even touch anything during the night because all they do is sit in the coop and sleep or on the perch and sleep. But in theory, they should have access to food and water 24 hours a day. They can't see very well at night, so ideally try to keep it somewhere where if they need it, they can get to it. But my girls just sit there. They don't move.
Yeah, because you know that saying, the chickens came back to roost. Have you heard that statement before?
I have.
I had no idea what that meant. But it seems at night, these chickens, when the sun goes down, they go into their house and they go on top of a stick that we put. So they're roosting.
They're perching and roosting, yeah.
And it seems what I've read is that at night they can't see very well. So they want to be high, like on a tree or something to stay away from predators. They're roosting. That's what Yep. So what does that saying means? Like your problems will come back and get on a tree or something?
I don't know. We'll have to look that up. I don't know. Oh, all right. So that was a little bit about some of your husbandry and feed management. So now we'll dabble a little bit in calcium supplementation. Like we talked about earlier in nutrition, there's different calcium balances for different stages of life. Your egg-laying hens really need 3 to 4.5% calcium in their feed. And then hens that are laying the eggs require large amounts of calcium for their eggshell development. Calcium can be supplied in either oyster shell or limestone. When the diet doesn't contain enough of their calcium, it has to be provided. But you do not want younger chicks, like we mentioned earlier, getting those high calcium supplements, because it will hurt their kidneys and it will hurt their growth and development, and it can be potentially fatal, decrease growth. So the calcium supplementation, although minor, does matter in those different life stages. So
here is a rapid-fire, 30-second version of how a chicken digests its food without teeth. Esophagus to crop. Food slides down the throat and waits in the crop. A storage pouch that softens the food with moisture. Proventriculus. The chicken's true stomach sprays acids onto the food to start breaking it down. Gizzard and grit. Since chickens can't chew, they swallow tiny rocks. Grit. The gizzard is a strong muscle that squeezes these rocks together to grind up the food. Intestines. The mashed food moves to the small intestine to absorb nutrients, and then the large intestine sucks up the leftover water. Cloaca. The single exit door where all waste drops out at the exact same time.
all right.
What do you got next?
Yep. So next topic, again, really short, like calcium, is grit supplementation, which is also, I have learned recently as I got my chickens, very important. Grit is basically made of insoluble pieces of granite, and it comes in a chick size and a hen size. And oyster shell that we talked about earlier is not quite enough alone to help grind the feed. There are high amounts of acid in the gizzard, which we were discussed as kind of the grinder of all of the gritty, pebbly, thick stuff in the GI tract of the chicken. And it's going to, ultimately, the grit is going to help dissolve all of the stuff faster. And they should have basically free access, like a hopper or a container with their grit as well, supplemented. So really quick, nothing much about the grit, but it is important.
When you ever say grits, I think of like the grits from like Waffle House.
Shrimp and grits. That's ground up corn. A little bit different, but
Let's move on. What else you got?
So we got a little bit about water management. So water is actually one of the most important yet least thought about nutrient requirements for birds. They need clean water access 16 to 24 hours a day. And water makes up, similar to humans, like we are a lot of water. Water makes up 70% of the bird's body weight. And they will drink at least twice the volume of water compared to the feed consumed. So they need a lot of water, put it that way. And they will drink more water if they're laying eggs, if it's hot outside over 75 degrees. So welcome to Florida. It is always that way. Water deprivation can, again, cause kidney issues, just like the calcium, because chickens have really high metabolic rates. So make sure there are tons of varieties of water apparatuses like we talked about. I just had a bucket and we drilled those pieces in there, and now they have water access all the time, and they know how to press the little thing and it gets the water to come down. Regardless of what system you use, all birds should be able to drink the water at the same time. So if you have however many birds, you need to make sure there's that many access points to water at all times. And then make sure you clean it regularly to get rid of biofilms, slime, calcium deposits, and accumulation of any organic materials. So really every few days, you need to give it a good clean.
Chickens can't sweat. So what they usually do is they pant and they shift blood flow. Okay. And these are three things that you should consider: shade, water, and ventilation. So now in July and August, it's the hottest months of the year here in Florida. So you have to make sure that these animals have somewhere that at least they have shade. There's also some solar fans we were thinking about.
Oh, really?
Like
cool.
A little
like
fan
to keep them
mist. Put a little mist in there. What we usually do is these chickens, we let them roam around the yard. They find a shade, or they do is they make holes in the dirt, and then they get into the dirt like a dirt bath.
Yep. Oh yeah, they love that. They're destroying my grass where mine is. I've just kind of accepted I'm not going to have a nice plot of grass there.
And
but
they just defecate on everything.
They poop everywhere, but that's not horrible.
Well, we have a little patio, and they got into the screen, and they just they walk and defecate.
They do poop
And
on
you know
your
their
porch a
poop
lot.
is it's like liquid.
Yeah, well, they have just a cloaca, right?
Yeah, they just have a
So they
cloaca.
don't have like, excuse my French, a butthole and a pee hole. They have a cloaca, which is basically one hole that everything comes out of.
Yeah.
Fun fact:
Fun fact.
in my in my second year of practice out at Trail Ridge Veterinary Services in Hoboken, Georgia, I had a baby emu come in with a cloacal prolapse. I had to figure out how to sedate a baby emu and how to fix a cloacal prolapse, which is like a rectal prolapse in a dog or a cat or a human, in a bird, in a baby bird, in an emu. And it worked. He had full of worms, but it worked. I fixed the butt. Everything's good.
It's a good story. It's like a cloaca is basically that the anus and the vagina is one hole. So birds, they defecate, they urinate, and they release eggs off from the same orifice.
Yeah, from the same orifice. Yeah, and they lay their eggs too. From the cloaca.
One time when I was in Dominican Republic, we went to a zoo, and this is a funny story. They actually lassoed like a gator, and this guy jumped on it and put a duct tape on the mouth, and then they needed it was like 10 of us. So we picked up this gator and we were transporting it, and then the teacher was like, "Hey, everybody, come feel this gator's cloaca." So I stuck my finger in the gator's cloaca, and it's just like a chicken.
Digestive system.
Let's talk about housing.
Yes.
How did you find that chicken's house? And in my experience, if you go to on websites, they have these chicken houses that are made out of wood. You know that you build, and those are garbage. Those are not gonna last. They're just gonna break. They're terrible. Like as soon as water hits them, or even any sort of wind, you could buy those, but you gotta cover it. Let's talk about molting.
Molting. All right. Well, Carlos has had chickens for many years, like 3 years or something. So
it's been a while,
he's seen them go through the molt process. I just got mine, and they're babies, so they won't go through it this year, but next year they probably will. So Carlos, tell us a little bit about the molting process.
So during the fall, when there's less light out, what happens is they start losing their feathers. And once they start losing their feathers, their egg production drops. So during this time, what you want to do is increase their protein, because you have to supplement for them to produce new feathers. And then they're kind of miserable during this time. But once the light goes back to normal, then their feathers come in nicer, and their egg production goes even higher.
Yeah.
That's what we noticed.
Yep. So chickens can live for many years, and they lay eggs for many years. However, after 2 or 3 years, sometimes they'll decline in their productivity. And this can vary from bird to bird. Good layers will lay 50 to 60 weeks, and then they'll have a rest period called that molt, which is their time that they won't lay eggs. Poor layers and older hens will molt more often and lay less consistently. So the molting is a very normal but important process, and can change as they continue to age. So,
but it says the molt could be up to 16 weeks, 4 months.
Yep.
And you want to minimize handling, avoid introducing new birds, and just try to keep them clean and calm.
Yep.
Because it seems like it's a stressful time for them.
Yep. And the decreasing length during the fall and the shorter days affect their sunlight exposure, which, like in that winter time, they're going to be expected to have some declines in that. And that's also when you'll undergo that feather molting and whatnot. And that's sometimes when their production ceases. So the molt is really cool. I'm kind of interested to see when it happens to me, but it's going to be a little while, because I think until you witness it, I think some people kind of freak out about it. Yeah. But if you understand like the seasonality portion and understand how it relates to laying, I think it's something that's very educational and that is very normal. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's all we got.
Yep. Lots more that you can read. There's another resource outside of the last one that we talked about. I have it pulled up here. And it's really cool. I actually read a little bit about it. I found this also on Vin. And it's almost like a link in the book. It's really long, but it's called Small Flock Poultry Health. And it's disease prevention and good management of your flocks, sponsored by the state or the country of Canada, Growing Forward, and British Columbia. And I was trying to see if it was written. You can probably find it online. I think it's a published book now. But it's a really great, make sure you find really great chicken resources if you feel like you're unfamiliar with what you need to know. There's lots of good management options, and make sure you get it from a reliable source and not just somebody who thinks that they know a lot about chickens.
And remember, if you need a mobile vet in St. John's, Florida, look at the Heel Mobile. We save you time.
Yep. And I work for Carlos on some Saturdays every week. And if you're looking for a relief vet, give me a shout. I'm licensed in Florida and Georgia.
Remember, spay and neuter and vaccinate.
Bye.
See you next time.
Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, oh, oh. The right stuff.